Chapter 9, The Christmas Truce. Before we begin, World War I, 1914 to 1918, was one of the most gruesome and deadliest wars in the history of mankind. The warring countries, in their hunger to win, would send men, materials, ammunitions, and other necessities in order to maintain the continuity of the battle. The Christmas Truce was a series of unofficial ceasefires along the Western Front of World War I around the Christmas in 1914.
In the week leading up to the Christmas, French, German, and British soldiers crossed their trenches to exchange foods, greetings, and gifts.
Let's read the letter of a British soldier to his sister, in which he talks about the unusual friendship that was forged between the British and the Germans during the truce. My dear sister Janet, it is 2 o'clock in the morning, and most of our men are asleep in their dugouts. Yet, I could not sleep before writing to you about what happened here on Christmas Eve. In truth, what happened seems almost like a fairy tale, and if I had not been through it myself, I would scarce believe it. While you and the family sang carols before the fire there in London, I did the same with enemy soldiers here on the battlefields of France. As I wrote before, there has been little serious fighting of late. Both sides are holding back until replacements come from home. We have mostly stayed in our trenches and waited. But what a terrible waiting it has been, knowing that any moment an artillery shell might land and explode beside us, killing or injuring several of us.
In daylight, not daring to lift our heads above the ground for fear of getting hit by a soldier's bullet.
Also, it has been raining every day, and we have to bail the water out with pots and pans from our trenches. The rain has made the trenches muddy. It splatters and coats everything and constantly sucks at the boots. Through all this, we could not help feeling curious about the German soldiers across the way. After all, they faced the same dangers and problems that we did and slogged about in the same muck. What's more, their first trench is only 50 yards from us. Between us lay no man's land border on both sides by barbed wire. Yet they were close enough. We sometimes heard their voices. Of course, we hated them when they killed our friends, but at other times we joked about them and almost felt as if we had something in common. And now it seems they felt the same. Just yesterday morning, Christmas Eve day, we had our first good freeze. We welcomed it as it froze the mud solid. Everything was tinged white with frost, while a bright sun shone over everything. Perfect Christmas weather. During the day, there was little shelling or rifle fire from either side. As darkness fell, the shooting stopped entirely. Our first complete silence in months. We hoped it promised a peaceful holiday, but didn't count on it. We had been told the Germans might try to catch us off guard and attack. I went to the dugout to rest and must have drifted off to sleep when my friend John suddenly shook me awake, saying, "Come and see." See what the Germans are doing. I grabbed my rifle, stumbled out into the trench, and stuck my head cautiously above the sandbag. I can never hope to see a stranger and more lovely sight. Clusters of tiny lights were shining all along the German line. "What is it?" I asked in bewilderment. And John answered, "Christmas trees." So it was. The Germans had placed Christmas trees in front of their trenches, lit by candle or lantern like beacons of goodwill. And then we heard them singing, "Still Nash, Hellish Nash." This carol may not yet be familiar to us in Britain, but John knew it and translated Silent Night, Holy Night. I've never heard one lovelier or more meaningful in that quiet, clear night, its darkness softened by a first quarter moon. When the song finished, the men in our trenches applauded. Yes, British soldiers applauded Germans. Then one of our own men started singing, and we all joined in. The first Noel, the angel did say. In truth, we did not sound as good as the Germans, with their fine harmonies, but they responded with enthusiastic applause and then began another. "O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum." Then we replied, "Oh, come, all ye faithful." But this time they joined in, singing the words in Latin. Adest Fidel. Britain and Germany harmonizing across no man's land. I would have thought nothing could be more amazing. But what came next was even more so. English, come over. We heard one of them shout. You no shoot, we no shoot. We looked at each other in bewilderment. Then one of us shouted jokingly, You come over. To our astonishment, we saw two figures rise from a trench, climb over their barbed wire, and advance unprotected across no man's land. One of them called, Send officer to talk. I saw one of our men lift his rifle, and no doubt the other side did the same. But a captain called out, Hold your fire! Then he climbed out and went to meet the Germans halfway. We heard them talking, and a few minutes later, the captain came back and announced,
We have agreed that there will be no shooting before midnight tomorrow.
But soldiers are to remain on duty, and the rest of you stay alert. Across the way, we could make out groups of 2 or 3 men starting out of their trenches and coming towards us. Then some of us climbed out too, and in minutes, there we were in no man's land. Over 100 soldiers and officers of each side, shaking hands with men we'd been trying to kill just hours earlier.
Before long, a bonfire was built, and around it we mingled British khaki and German grey.
Only a couple of our men knew German, but more of the Germans knew English. I asked one of them why that was so. Because many have worked in England, he said. Before this, I was a waiter at the Hotel Cecil. Perhaps I waited at your table. Perhaps you did, I said, laughing.
He told me he had a girlfriend in London and that the war had interrupted their plans of marriage.
I said, Don't worry. We'll have you beat by Easter. Then you can come and marry the girl. He laughed at that and asked if I could send her a postcard he'd give me later, and I promised I would. Another German had been a porter at Victoria Station. He showed me a picture of his family back in Munich. His eldest sister was lovely. I told him I should like to meet her someday. He beamed and gave me his family's address. Even those who could not converse could still exchange gifts. Our tea for their coffee, our corned meat for their sausage, badges and buttons from uniforms changed owners. And one of our boys walked off with a spiked helmet. I myself traded a jackknife for a leather equipment belt, a fine souvenir to show when I get home. As it grew late, few more songs were traded around the fire, and then all joined in for I Am Not Lying to You, All Lang Syne. Then we parted with promises to meet again tomorrow, and there was even some discussion about playing a football match. I was just starting back to the trenches when an older German soldier clutched my arm. My God, he said, why cannot we have peace and all go home? I told him gently that you must ask your emperor. He looked at me searchingly and said, Perhaps, my friend, but we must also ask our hearts. So, dear sister, tell me, has there ever been such a Christmas Eve in all history? What does it all mean? This impossible befriending of enemies? Those soldiers may be decent fellows, but they follow orders, and we do the same. Besides, we are here to stop their army and send it home, and never could we shirk that duty. Still, one cannot help but imagine what would happen if the spirit shown there were caught by the nations of the world. Disputes may arise, but what if our leaders were to offer good wishes in place of warnings, songs in place of insults, gifts in place of reprisals? Would not all wars end at once?
All nations say they want peace, yet on this Christmas morning, I wonder if we want it quite enough.